Hey, what's up guys? I'm John Namchi, and this is part 2 of making the Hutch Foundation Computer Lab. In this series, I take on the daunting task of turning a storage room into a vibrant technology space and share the lessons learned from all the highs and lows of the journey. Now, we've just gotten started, but already I'm going to be honest with you, I think reality's hit me that I have a huge mountain to climb. So, in this episode, I'm going to give you tips on how to take on such a massive task with both focus and clarity, so instead of feeling like you're being crushed under the pressure, you end up being the one who's crushing it. All right, so today we address a few things that many of us run into when we're taking on such a big task. You know, whether you're trying to start that company or start that YouTube channel or even launch a big product, there are two issues that you're certainly going to be running into. The first is dealing with the fact that a lot of your initial work is going to be undone or in vain or will actually just be the wrong thing. And the second is dealing with this paralyzing feeling almost when you kind of realize how much work you need to do and it kind of makes you feel stuck. So these are the two things we're going to address. All right, so let's start with the first. So when I came back into the room today, a lot of the work I did last week, pretty much got undone. So a lot of boxes that I moved around, they got put back. Some of the computers as well were moved around. And the table setup I made like over here, that also got moved around. And on top of all of that, all the big computers that I spent a long time breaking my back, getting out from under those desks, none of them actually work. So we're not going to be able to use them. So really, it feels like I did all that effort, breaking my back and so on, all for nothing. And while this is somewhat true, you have to realize that actually doing a lot of the wrong things initially just happens by design. When you're engaging in such a huge effort, especially when it's something important, there's going to be so many moving parts and things that need to happen that you're not going to be able to predict all of those things. Actually, 99% of the time, you're going to know almost nothing about what the final result looks like versus what you predicted it to be. So knowing that, instead of getting frustrated, discouraged, or disappointed that your initial efforts don't work, you need to reframe that perception into that you're just learning, you're still figuring things out. And that's exactly what's happening. So if you say, oh, I did all this effort and it didn't work, that's for sure going to feel like a failure, right? Instead, though, you can reframe things as like, for me, I tried to move these computers and people move them back. So clearly this room is being used still while I'm transforming it. So I need to find a way to let people know not to move things around. I could maybe put like a post-it note saying don't touch, or, make something or the area really, really nice so that people are like, oh, okay, something's happening here and, I'm not going to want to move things. Framing it that way, at least now I have an understanding of what I'm trying to do, a lot more concretely. And that's just way more productive, isn't it? And we already know that this fact holds true for so many facets of life, right? When you're starting your startup, for example, you know that you don't know what your final product is going to be. You need to find that product market fit. So what most startups do is they're just in this phase of just continuous pivoting, changing their direction, changing their product, changing their people, over and over and over again until they find something that works. And this kind of startup approach should be applied to other areas of life as well. So yeah, with any difficult effort in life, accepting this waviness when starting out allows you to reframe your experiences from failures to progress. So having framed it this way, I actually feel a lot of satisfaction now because I feel like I understand, what's going on in this room a lot better. And, I think this holds true to the fact that you can try and your work may be undone initially, but it's certainly much better than never having tried at all. All right, now let's address the other challenge, which is how do you face that sinking and paralyzing feeling you get when reality hits you and you realize you may have bitten off a little more than you can chew. This really hit me hard today because on top of fixing what changed in the first episode, I still have to clean up all this random stuff, move all these boxes out the room, make the space nice, and progress has just been super slow. Also, I'm mostly on my own in this lab since I'll be the one who's running this tech center. So I have to find the motivation and strength within myself to keep pushing along. And on top of all of that, I don't even know if the students would be interested in using this lab as I intend. Most of them are teenagers and also in high school, and I have no clue if they'd be interested in learning technology. And, that just complicates things because it adds a sense of like unease and anxiety in almost everything I do right now. Now, I'm sure you can relate all of these challenges to your own situation. I'm sure you felt that paralyzing feeling that can really just stop progress in its tracks. In truth, these feelings sometimes are the nail in the coffin that cause all of us to give up on what we're trying to do. So what's happening here is you're getting all of these sensations because you feel like you just don't have the answers. Do you ever remember when you were young and you took a test that you never studied for? You know, you sit down, you get the paper and you're like, oh, I'm screwed. Kind of feels like that, right? In the same way, when you think of all of the things that you need to do in one go, all those problems stack up into a huge pile of just inconceivable work. Like those pile of boxes over there. And so this is paralyzing because you just can't think of all of those things in one thought. Actually, studies show that humans can only think of up to 4 different thoughts at any one time. And just like any animal, when we start feeling uncertain and like we lack control, that fear response gets triggered. And our typical reaction to such a feeling is to cower away from the source so that we can protect ourselves from this unknown threat. And so, when we're faced with an impossibly large and scary task ahead of us, our gut reaction is indeed to give up. So that's what's happening. But we don't have to give up, right? We know so many people who've accomplished so many great, huge tasks. So what we actually need to do is find a way to neutralize the threat. In our case, the threat being a huge mountain of tasks ahead. So really, how do we neutralize this big, scary psychological mountain? And now once we frame it that way, the answer becomes pretty simple. We just need to split up that big task into smaller digestible chunks and only focus on the next goal. But the crucial part of this is that you also have to purposely ignore everything else. By eliminating those masses of tasks except for the one that you need to do, that mountain effectively just disappears. And you're left with one digestible task that you can easily process in your mind and think about clearly, and you know that you can easily handle. And as long as the next goal fits into this overall vision you have, that's going to be more than enough to make your mind satisfied and easily able to lock in and concentrate on what it is you need to do next. From then on, it should be pretty easy to go ahead with your task. As long as you don't attach yourself to the final result again, because all that's going to do is just bring the mountain back into view and cause problems once again. So really, that's also a big reason why, the saying, enjoy the process is so prevalent. So applying this lesson in the computer lab now, there is so much to do. But I do know the first thing that I need to sort out are the actual computers. The intention of the lab is to teach programming and give students a space to work with technology. So we need to establish the computers in their place first, and then we can kind of build around that. So as we've seen, there's a whole range of computers that are in this room, both new and old, and it's just made it difficult to figure out how to give students a consistent learning experience. Forget about the boxes, getting the students interested and so on. Like, this is the first thing I need to focus on. So I thought about it more deeply, and I realized that I could actually split the room into 2 sections basically. So I could put all the good computers on one side and have that as like the learning area, and then I can put all the other computers on the other side and have that as like the more creative space for students to kind of use computers as they please. In that setting, I have consistency on the learning side, so all the students who are taking it seriously all have the same opportunity to learn. And then there's a relaxed vibe on the other side, which should engender, more fun and just creative atmosphere. And now when we look at what we need to do, which is just the computers, how does that feel? Do you feel that clarity, cohesion, and calmness? I certainly do. Being able to focus freely on just one single task really opens up your mind to think more deeply about it. And that allows you to bring not only that clarity, but also comfort and excitement into the work that you're about to do. All right, so now I can just focus on setting the computers on the desks as nice as possible. And then when that's done, then I can sit back and reassess what the next task is going to be. All right, so let's get started on these computers. All right, so we got all of the learning computers set up. That all looks really good. And then the other thing is now we're going to put these back. So these are actually really old and we shouldn't be using them. So unfortunately, we're going to have to put them back, which sucks because put all that effort to take them out, but that's too bad. So I only had enough time to set up one side of the workspace today, but as you can see, it looks pretty great. I mean, this alone looks like a seriously good workspace to learn. So I also don't think anyone will want to touch that. Since everything is nicely in order and put in place. So honestly, I think that's awesome. And all right, I guess all I have left to do now is fix up this other side of the computer lab, but I'm out of time today, so that'll be for next time. For now though, I hope you got some great insights on how to take on a very, very large task and how to take on that paralyzing feeling as well. And so I'll see you in the next video where we fix up this side of the computer lab and see what else we learn along the way.
Wake me up, wake me up.